Welcome. Thank you for coming. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. And most of you, it looks like were here last time. So it's great to see you back. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Women's Business Center. We're a nonprofit business center serving entrepreneurs in SLO, Kern, and Monterey counties. Today's webinar is being sponsored by the SBA, Wells Fargo Bank, Pacific Premier Bank, and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. Their generosity allows us to offer this webinar and our free mentoring services to you at no charge. Thank you, sponsors. We love our sponsors. The Women's Business Center offers free one-on-one business consulting with professionals in all areas of business, including marketing, budgeting, taxes, you name it. We also have business mentors to help you plan for profitability. Simply put, our mission is to support you in business, and our services are free. Simply register with us at mcscorp.org to get started. And I will put that link in the chat box in a little bit. I would like to thank Gina Cinardo for presenting today. Gina is a Women's Business Center success story. After completing our entrepreneurial training course, which is called Explore, Design, and Launch, she launched her business and is a testament to the power of women entrepreneurs. She's the owner of Ginici Studios, a photography studio that specializes in headshots, personal branding, and commercial photography. Her passion is to tell a story through designs and images that effectively convey your business's messages to your customers. She also helps businesses set up starter websites in WordPress, which we're doing today, and develop a social media presence. This is part 2, as I mentioned. She presented part 1 a couple weeks ago. If you didn't see that and you would like the link, please let me know. You can also see it on our YouTube channel, and I'll put that link in the chat box shortly. Let's see. So I just wanted to do a few housekeeping items. Please limit your distractions and mute your phone. Your cameras are off and you are automatically muted because this is webinar style. If you'd like to participate, you can participate in the chat box. You can chat to everyone or just to the panelists or hosts. It's your choice. In the little drop-down menu, you can choose what you want. And I'll send you the recording link after this is over. So I'd like to launch a 30-second poll so we can find out how you heard about us. If you could take 30 seconds, that would be great. All right. Thank you so much, Gina. Take it away.
All righty. Let me share my screen. All right, well, welcome everybody. It's so nice to see you on this call, and welcome back if this is your second time, and welcome if this is your first time. I'm going to do my best to get as much content to you as possible within the hour, but WordPress is kind of a beast, as some of you know, which is why you're here. So I'm going to do my best. I am going to kind of backtrack a little bit from what I kind of missed last week. So I'm going to just go through as quickly as possible. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and Barbara will let me know, because once I'm full screen sharing, I can't really see the chat. So a little about me again. My name is Gina Cinardo. I'm a photographer, a brand consultant, a designer, a web developer, a teacher, as well as a presenter, and also a consultant with the Women's Business Center. So if at any point in this presentation you're stumped on more stuff, if we don't have time to answer the question or to go into a little bit more depth, then you can always schedule a consult with me, and I can help you one-on-one through your WordPress. All right. So to start, we're going to backtrack a little bit and talk about the magic of plugins, because I really talked more about themes last time, as some of you recall. And if you weren't on the call, that's fine. You can go back and listen to it. But plugins are an amazing thing. Have you ever heard the term, there's an app for that? Well, in the world of WordPress, the term is there's a plugin for that. Because if you can think about anything you'd like to do on your website, you can probably do it with a third-party plugin. And this is why WordPress is so amazing, because there are so many brilliantly talented, creative developers and coders and stuff that create stuff that you can add to your WordPress website and make it more functional. Now, a lot of plugins are free, and what you can do is you can install them and then play around with them a little bit. And then if you don't like it, you can actually install a new one. Almost every plugin also will have a full feature ability to it if you pay for the license to use it. So there's going to be limited functionality on a free version, and there's going to be more functionality on a paid version. So like, for example, if you're doing galleries, special galleries or sliders, you can buy certain plugins that will do even more functionality than, say, your builder or your website theme. Contact forms, there's tons and loads of contact forms that you can design and develop. You can actually create full questionnaires, all kinds of stuff. Then other kinds of software, such as MailChimp or Constant Contact, all of those businesses, even any kind of customer relationship management software, such as Hootsuite or 17 Hats, or even some of the bigger ones that use that do invoicing and project management, all of these things, most of those will have some kind of functionality or even a plugin that allows you to connect it with WordPress. So keep that in mind with anything that you have. Even PayPal will have a plugin. MailChimp has a plugin. I'm sure Constant Contact has a plugin, so forth. And then you can also add maps, and you can also add security. And security is really important when it comes to WordPress, because WordPress is so popular. It's also the most hackable. So you have to be careful, make sure, like we said at the last meeting, to have your security in place on your hosting account. But that doesn't mean that you can't add a couple of plugins to enhance your firewall and to keep it even more secure and protected. Okay. Another thing is WooCommerce, and we're going to go into WooCommerce at the end a little bit to give you some ideas on what you can do with it. But it is also a third-party app, and it's also actually open source. So you can install WooCommerce into your WordPress site totally for free and utilize it by connecting it to your payment system or whatever. But keep in mind that WooCommerce also has a lot of specialty plugins that are included with it that you would have to buy in advance. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Okay, so, and also search engine optimization is a big one, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But to begin with, what I'd like to talk about are one of the most popular plugins, which are builders. Now, you can utilize your Gutenberg builder in your website. Now, if you just have a WordPress website installed, no specialty theme, it's just a generic WordPress theme, such as the 2021 theme, you're going to be using the Gutenberg builder within WordPress. And I find that there's a little less functionality to that because you can't move it into columns. They are making it so that you have blocks that you can move it, but it's very much, I think, designed for phones. And so you have a simple column that kind of goes down the middle. There's no way to really make it wider. You can't add columns. So I find that I don't love the Gutenberg app. I actually prefer the old version better than the newer version. But of course, these builders that are so popular, everybody has them. Elementor is probably one of the most popular ones. There's also Visual Composer. There's also Divi Theme. So if you go to Elegant Themes, Divi Theme is also a drag and drop builder. And WordPress Bakery is another one. There's a ton of them. There's absolutely a ton of them. And you can try all kinds of different ones if you want to, because most of them have a free version. And then to extend to extend it and actually have all of these themes that you can integrate into your website, you have to buy the paid version. So drag and drop themes is a technology that allows anyone to move around pre-designed elemental blocks. So all of these kinds of things that you see in that little sample right there are considered blocks, and they're pre-designed for you. So if you have a builder right now and you don't see a lot of those templates within the builder itself, it's probably because you do have to register it. You have to license that. You have to buy that license so that you can use those themes. And that's what the enticement is. But you know what, in a way, it's worth it. If you like the functionality of it It makes it a little bit easier than knowing coding, obviously. You don't have to know coding. You can do pretty much anything with it if you know the basic technology behind it. And that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you how a drag and drop builder technically works. I realize all of them are different and you're probably all using different ones, or you haven't used any of them yet. But the general technology is the same. So before I go on, I'm actually going to stop sharing here for a second. And I'm going to share my browser, because I want to show you a couple other things. But first of all, I'll show you really quickly how to install a plugin. So if you're really new and you don't know how, you're going to just go to your plugins on your desktop, on your WordPress desktop. You're going to hit Add New. And you can pretty much look for any free sourced plugin here. So let's say I want to put in WordFence, which is my favorite security. You just type in WordFence and you can install it, and you just hit install. And it's installed, and then you can hit activate and go through the process to set it up. And it's that simple. And if you actually purchase a plugin and you download that plugin from the internet, it's usually in a zipped file. You keep it in that zipped file. You can hit upload plugin, and then you just go choose file. You find it on your desktop, and then you install it that way. And it's the same process. So it's very simple to install a plugin. If you wanted to do WooCommerce, all you have to do is type in WooCommerce. And there it is right there. Boom, boom. And you just install it. So it's super simple. Now here's a trick though, or here's a very important thing. Like I said, security is important. So every time you log into your WordPress website, you really do want to update everything. So every time you go to your dashboard, when you first upload stuff, or if just signing into your website, you're going to see that there are some updates to do. And here's the rule of thumb. Like, first of all, you want to make sure that your WordPress website is up to date as much as possible. If you can't log in every single day, obviously, at least once a month, you want to log in there and make sure everything is up to date. But what happens is you get three kinds of updates. You get theme updates, you get plugin updates, and you get WordPress itself will update. Most of the time when WordPress itself updates, those are security updates. So the order to do this, and this is really important, especially if you have a WordPress website you've had for a while and you haven't updated it in maybe 2 years, then the first thing you want to do is update all your plugins. So get into this habit, update your plugins first, and then you're going to update your themes. And then you're going to update to the newest version of WordPress if it's not updated. And the reason why is because once you update your plugins and your themes and then your WordPress, what's probably going to happen is you're going to have to do another update on more plugins and possibly more themes, because you're kind of getting it up to currency, or up to the most current changes and revisions. So with that, keep that in mind. That's something that has to be a regular thing that you're going to do, unless you want to hire somebody to do the maintenance for you. I highly recommend doing it, and it takes no time at all. You just select, I mean, if I had multiples, you select all, you hit update, you wait for it to be done. Don't try to go and, tour anything on your back end, and boom, it's done. My Wi-Fi is working really well today, which is a good sign. That's a good thing. And then do your theme. And then you can do actual WordPress. The thing about plugins that I do highly recommend is if you install it, say you're trying out a contact form, you install a contact form, but you don't love it, so you install a different contact form. Not crazy about it, you install another contact form. Make sure you delete those that you're not using and deactivate them. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 contact forms, or even just any kind of security plugins that you might have, if you have multiples of the same type of plugin that do the same kinds of functions, you could have some clashing there. You could actually have errors. You could break your website. So just be careful. You don't want to have too many plugins in there that you're not using. Another thing you want to make sure is when you're especially if you're thinking about buying it, make sure it's a very well-rated plugin. So the person who has developed it has, 5 stars. I mean, obviously there's going to be multiple different ratings, but the more 5-star ratings, the better, because then it's been around. And make sure that that developer is keeping it up to date, because sometimes you'll have plugins that you've been using and it's been abandoned for years. And so that ends up being a back end for a hacker to go through to get into your website. So just keep that in mind. And if you do install the WordFence software or the WordFence plugin, it's great because it'll tell you when your plugins are outdated or need updating, and then I'll tell you which plugins have been abandoned. So that's also a really nice thing to have in there. So moving on, I'm going to go back to my presentation. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Let's see what we got here.
We do have a couple. Did you want to read them or do you want me to?
Let's see. What is the role of the Beaver Builder? I have never heard of Beaver Builder, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all of these builders. So you're just, this is the thing, is I'm going to show you basically the general technology of it. And you're going to have to experiment by trying out these plugins yourself and these builders. If they have a free version, then you're just going to go for it. And if you like it, then you can buy it. If so, that's what I would suggest. So I will show you a little bit of my builder, but I don't love my builder. And so I'm not even going to recommend it. But there's a reason for that, but I'll show you that a little bit later. Let's see. I think that's it.
My WordPress site used to be secure, but it's no longer secure. I feel like you talked about that. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, so if it's no longer secure, go back in there and, install WordFence, do a scan, clean out other old plugins. Now, here's another thing to think about. If your website's doing twitchy things or you have a plugin that's not working quite right, most likely it's because there are 2 plugins that are conflicting. Now, if you can get into the back end of your site, everything's still fine and working. But if you want to troubleshoot it, the best way to troubleshoot your plugins is to just basically deactivate every single one. Just go through, and what's going to happen is you're going to, your site's going to look broken because you're turning off contact forms, whatever, starter kits. I mean, I don't have anything installed in this WordPress website right now. This is just a stripped website. But then what you can do is you can start putting back on the plugins and, check it and see if it's working. This is a good way to troubleshoot it and to see which is the culprit, which plugin is the culprit. And if it's a form, then you can either try a different contact form, or you can contact the developer of that form. Sometimes that there's, it just depends on which journey you want to go on, because that's part of it too. WordPress is continually a learning experience. Okay, so hopefully that will answer some questions. I'm going to stop share here again and go back to my presentation. We have one more
question. Can we ask one more?
Okay, sure.
So you build your WordPress site with a builder, not WordPress?
No, you can use WordPress if you'd like to, if you like it. So real quickly, so the default builder in WordPress is called Gutenberg, and they're working on adding more drag and drop functionality to it, so you can move blocks. Typically, you can't add columns and you can't go full width. So it tends to be really narrow. And so if you're really focused on just doing a very standard kind of brochure website and you want people to just be able to sign up things on your phone, then it's totally fine. It's going to be totally up to you, whether you want to go with Gutenberg or you want to add a builder. But a builder is going to add the functionality that you see on most high-end looking websites, with moving parts, full width screens that actually, when you condense them down into a phone, it becomes responsive, things move around, you can control how things move. So there's a lot more control and creativity that you can have with a builder, as opposed to just straight Gutenberg. Gutenberg is a little bit more difficult to design, I think. But that doesn't say you can't use it. You can totally use it. You can add pictures. You can do all kinds of things with that. And if you need help with Gutenberg, I can also show you in a one-to-one meeting how to use it. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question. I think people who, okay, good. I think people who have had WordPress for a while as well probably don't love the new Gutenberg builder, but it's probably just, it's totally fine. I just feel like that does have a little drawback on it, on what you can do. And I'll show you why, because with the drag and drop builder, you can really do a lot. And so here's what I'm going to do today. We're going to kind of go through how it generally works. And it all starts with a box, and basically different designers and builders are going to have different names. So this could be called a block. It could be called a row. It could be called a box, who knows? And so you add this element to your website, and basically you can add a line or a border to it. So this little checkered border that you see, that's my way of showing you that there's no border there. Sort of invisible or transparent. So you can add a border to it, obviously, and make it a box border. You can also fill it with color, and you can also fill it with color and make it transparent if you want to. You can also change the border radius. So if you want to have like a little edge that curves around, you can change the border radius. You can also add a photo to your block or your row or whatever they call it. You can also convert it into columns. And you can also set it to full width or in block mode. So if you go to your website or a desktop version of your website, and you see one picture that goes from side to side full frame in your browser, and then you have content that's kind of a specific row, that's called a block. So the nice thing about using a builder too is you can have some pictures and some elements be full width, and then you can have some elements be in a block. And sometimes I like that because I like my text on my desktop version to be sort of in line in a specific width. And it's not like sometimes my pictures to be big. And then what happens when it shrinks down to a phone is it resizes according to the phone. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can also adjust margins and padding, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more detail. And so here's an example. Wonderful, that's great. And then if you want to add text, you can also add a bunch of text. So here's a great heading, here's a proposition, value proposition, and more content, and you have a block with text. You can add, like I said, you can add color, you can change the font color, you can add all these other different elements to it. Oh, there was another line there, sorry. And then you can also create columns, and usually you can create 2 columns, 3 or 4 or quarter width, or sometimes you can drag and drop and make them more custom. It depends on the builder. Not all builders will allow you to do that, but some of them are really great. You can actually resize the column and it'll set it based on what your liking is. So once you have it set in columns, then what you can do is you can add a photo to the one side and you can add content to the other, okay? Voila. There you have 2 columns and more content. Now, what if you want to add a picture, but you want to add text on top of it? Okay, so now here's what happens. So you can add a picture to your block, and you can set it full width if you want to, however you want to. It can be in the background, and then what you can do is you can add another row or block on top of it. Okay, so this is kind of showing you can add, so let's say it's called a block, you can add a block, you can add a picture to the block, and then inside your block, you can add another row. And in that row, you can add 2 columns. And in those 2 columns, you can put text in one side and have the photo behind it on the other side. Isn't that cool? Now, sometimes it's hard to read some text on top of a photo. There's multiple ways. Obviously, I could make the text white, but I can also add within the text box itself, you should be also able to change the background color and make it transparent and then add the text on there so it reads a little bit better. Okay. All right. Any questions up to this point? Because I know that people are probably got their mind is swimming. So I know some of you are using some builders and you probably don't know how to do this yet, but I can show you if you set up an appointment with me. So, because again, all the builders are going to look differently and they're going to act differently, but you can generally do this with every builder. And the reason why I know this is because that's the first thing I do is I try to look for these functionalities to it because I want to have full control. Now, obviously, if you're using a builder and you're using themes, you might actually install a block that's already got all these elements in it. So now that you kind of know where to find some of these things, you can search for it and then change out where that picture might be, where that heading is, where that button might be, or whatever. And it might be easier for you to find it. I say might because I don't know your builder. But I will show you I'll show you one version of it in just a moment. Okay, so that is that option right there. Okay, so another thing you can do is you can adjust and control the position of each element within a block. So that means you can obviously add a border or a line, a box line in any color you want. You can add padding to it. And you can add a margin. So a padding is you have content in the middle. So if I go backwards and I want to have a board, like more of a space between the line and the border, then I can add some padding and it'll create another little space between the picture and the actual border itself. And then if I want to push an element away, then I'm going to go by margin. So let's say you have a block and then you put another block directly underneath it, but it's butting right up against it. So if you add a margin, then you can push that element away from the top element. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Now at this point, I'm going to stop sharing again. I know I go back and forth a lot, but well, actually, no, I have one more slide here. So in some of these builders, it'll look similar to this. You'll see that you have this box that'll tell you what side, and you can adjust the padding to be the same on every side, or you can adjust the or the same with the border, or you can, and the margin, or you could have maybe just the top. So if I want to push an element that's above it away, then I can add a margin just to the bottom. I don't have to add a margin all the way around it. Okay. And then if I want padding, but let's say I want my text box to be pushed up just a little bit, then I can add padding inside the box and then add a little padding to push that up. So now I will stop sharing. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here is, I use this builder called WordPress Bakery, and I wouldn't recommend it. I like it. I really like how it works. But what it does is it uses short codes and embeds the short codes within your page itself. And I feel like it adds way too much coding and it makes your website very heavy. But the developer of this plugin eventually created a builder, an actual website builder, which I now am converting to. So on my other website, this website, I'm actually changing it and converting it to the new builder. But this is still great. Most of the time, they look the same, whether you're using a live version or the back end. Most people like to use the front end. Most options with the builders, and this is a really good benefit to using a builder, is you can use a front end and a back end. So the back end is going to show you the blocks more in just not code version, but just lines. It's very linear. And then the front end is going to show you kind of a live version of your website and what it looks like to your audience. So it might be easier for you to visually make those adjustments to the builder itself. But you can see in this one that I have this row right here. So it's called a row in this builder. And within that row, I have another row. I have an inner row. And then I have columns set within that row. Now, why did I do that? Because I wanted it to be all together. Because when I have building elements all on the page, I sometimes like those, this is being one block to me. So that's why it's all set up together. So this is still within the same row. That makes sense. So when you have these different blocks, you're going to see probably some kind of icon that allows you to edit it. And in this one, it's a pencil, and I think a pencil is pretty standard. So once you click that pencil, then you have options. You'll have options on the back end somewhere. And so this is where you can find your padding box. So to give you an idea what this looks like padding wise, if I need to push my picture down, then I can add some padding there. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, and poof, it moved my picture down. And then if I want to do it just on the bottom, I can do it on the bottom, and poof, it moved my picture up. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea there. Margin, let's try it on the block itself. Let's do it. So I'm going to do this one. And if I want to push the top element away, then I can push the top element away that way. And see, it pushed that element down. And so this is how you can control things in your site to give it the width and height that you want. But keep in mind, as soon as you view it in a phone, it's going to look slightly different. So you want to make sure you go back and forth. And one way you can do that, and if you're working on a desktop, then the best way to do it is to just actually shrink your browser down. But every builder is going to be slightly different. So let me get rid of that padding, or that margin. Sorry, that was a margin. And so let's just look at a live version of this. Let's see. And this one, and most of them do give you the option of viewing it in different types of orientations, I should say. So you can look at it on a desktop, you can look at it on a tablet, in portrait mode, and on a phone in landscape, and on a phone in portrait mode. So this helps you design and customize each element within the block itself. And that's really, really handy to have as part of a feature, because then you can definitely control it more. Okay, so I'm just going to do the live version of my About Me page. So here's the live version. And so on the live version, I can't remember what I was going to tell you now. This is crazy. I'm having a brain fart. Excuse my language. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. The point was that I wanted to show you what it would look like live differently, if it looked any differently. A lot of times the back-end editor is not what I typically use. I typically use the front end. So if I go to I use the back-end editor, not the front end. So the back-end editor is a little bit more strict, but some of these builders now don't even have this option. You actually have to go to the front end. But what I kind of like about this is that you can see the boxes, and you can see what's nestled inside each box. And it's easier to see what element to actually edit, because in each one of these columns, so I can edit the block, and I can also edit each one of the columns as well, and have more control in it. And then more advanced builders will also give you some functionality to do some animation, which is really kind of cool. So on my homepage, this is a slider, which is part of the builder itself. But I also have at the bottom these little cool elements that sometimes slide in. Oh, I don't have them on this website. Sorry about that. Let's do it on this one. And I know, and I actually think that right now, all of the animation is really popular. So see how those zoomed right in? Yeah, that's a really cool feature. because it makes you look at it. Anytime you have motion, that's where your customer is going to look and whether they're going to look at that. And so you can actually have things, you can have boxes bounce up and down. And so this is my newest builder, and I actually love this builder a lot better, but it's a little bit, it's actually very similar than that WordPress Bakery, because it was initially the same developer, but it's more front end looking, and all the controls are same, and there are lots and lots of templates, which I love. And so when you actually click on this element right here, you can go to all these templates. And of course, I'm using the full version. I paid for the license, so I can access all these different templates and elements and blocks. You can blocks and look at all those different elements, which is really cool. So yeah, why wouldn't you take advantage of this? I mean, makes it so much easier to build an element when all you have to do is just click on that box, and then suddenly you have an element within your website, and all you need to do is find out how to change out that picture, change the color, change the font, or change the wording in the text. It makes it so much easier. So yeah, Gutenberg is still pretty good if you really focus more on just straight text and some blocks, but I think that the builders are really nice because they give you a lot more functionality and creativity. When you get really used to them and you get more confident with it, it's definitely something that I think is easier. Okay, so okay, so the new builder I'm using is called Visual Composer. And it's not necessarily a builder, it is a plugin. It's slightly different. It's more of a website builder. So you're actually going to think about it a little differently than just installing a plugin and then activating it within your page. It's actually does it with, I mean, it's still pretty much the same, but so it really does the whole website, which I like better. The coding I feel is better. I can already see a huge difference in the way my pages load. So if you find that you're working with an older builder and it's nestled with all these different short codes, and it takes a long time to load, that's probably why, because it still has to pull up all that code. Okay, and then what is the name of this? Okay, so somebody said, what is the name of this system? So Visual Composer is my newest builder. WordPress Bakery is the old version of it, so don't get that. I'm going to just tell you, I wouldn't get that. So somebody asked, how does it look on the phone? That's what I was going to show you. Thank you. So that was what my brain fart was. I forgot to show you what it looks like responsive. Let's see if we can get this to work. So if you are looking at a website live, okay, and then you shrink it down, you shrink your website down. So what I did is, this is now the phone version, and what I did is I pushed all the elements underneath the slider, and so that's how it looks on the phone. So you have control of where you want your elements to fall underneath each other, and that's a really cool feature to have, but it's tricky. So if your builder does have this feature, please let me know. And if you need any help with it, definitely set up an appointment with me. But I like it, like I could still go back in here and get really picky about spacing, because it spaces differently on the phone than it does on the desktop. And that's really important, because you want to make a good impression. You don't want text to overlap. And then one kind of cool thing is, let me show you this. So when you go to my brand photography page, so I have all of these pictures right here that kind of popped up, and they overlap one another. So that's experimenting with your margin as a negative margin. So if you add a negative margin on one side, then if you have two blocks right here and you put a negative margin on this row, then it can actually go over and overlap the other column. Okay, so that's something to play with too, because overlapping. However, when you have elements like that on a phone, it doesn't work as well. So keep in mind how it's going to look on every type of device, because on the phone, I decided to, when I scrunch it down, just to have one photo as my lead-in picture, as opposed to those 3 pictures that converge in the middle. So I created 2 separate elements so that it would look good on the device that I'm showcasing it on. Okay. All right. So any other questions at this point? I'm actually getting good. Going back and forth gives me an opportunity to look at the questions.
You are doing well with the questions. And I think you got to the one, how do themes and builders work together? You did that one. Do some themes not work with some builders?
Yes, and here's a good question. That's a great question, because what I would suggest is, if you're looking for a really good theme, find the theme that's using the builder you want to use. So if you're looking for a theme, like if you like Elementor but you don't love your theme, go to Elementor and find out what themes they like, or go to Theme Forest, which I showed you last time. And when you're looking at the theme itself, it'll give you what other plugins they utilize to build that theme, and they'll tell you the main builder that's in it. And most of the time, Elementor is probably one of the most popular themes. Or popular builders. I find that it's really good. So yeah, that would be an excellent one. So buy your theme based on what the builder is. Now, if you buy Visual Composer, you kind of have to start from scratch a little bit. So it's a little bit, not necessarily more advanced. I think if you got used to using a builder, you could kind of go to it, but you would have to start not necessarily from scratch, but you have all those elements that then you can pick and choose those elements as your theme elements. So that's where it makes it easy. Okay, let's see.
We have one more question. It's an older one. It's about the plugins. What's the next step after deactivation to find plugins that might be interfering with each other?
Well, if you find, so ask the question one more time, I'm sorry.
What's the next step after deactivation to find plugins that might be interfering with each other?
So you uninstall, well, not just uninstall them. You don't want to uninstall, just deactivate them, and then do one at a time. So you're going to have one version of your website live that you can refresh. Okay, so you're going to deactivate all of them, look at the live version, refresh, and then look to see if it fixed the problem. And if it fixed the problem, whatever the problem might be, then you can start turning on your plugins. Maybe do one, go back, refresh. And if it still fixed the problem, then you go back to the other one, turn it on, go back to the live version, refresh. And hopefully that will help tell you which is the culprit, which plugin is the culprit. Okay. And if you still have problems, it could be beyond that even. It could be something else. It could be your brow, it could be anything. So that's where you have, but that's the first step I would do if you have a problem with some plugins. Okay, back to the presentation, because we still have 15 more minutes.
I have one real quick one. What's the name of the new builder again?
I'm using Visual Composer.
Okay. Thank you. Just trying to squeeze them in.
Okay. Okay, so screen share, yes, back to presentation. Okay, so moving along, we're going to now talk about how to diversify your blog. And the thing about a blog, blogs are amazing, okay? So I don't know if you realize this, but in the 90s, when some designers would log data, or log content onto a website, it was called a web log, and then eventually it became blog. So blog is not an acronym. It's just basically a shorter version of web log, okay? Just in case you wanted to know. Because I have to give you those kinds of little tidbits of information. Okay, so with a website that offers a blog, there's a lot of great functionality to that. There's a reason for it. First of all, it's the definition of a blog itself is called a journal. It's a journal of information, informational website displaying pieces of data in reverse chronological order, which means that the latest post will always show up first. Okay, so it always shows fresh content. Well, you know, your browsers, especially Google, loves that. They like good, nice, fresh content. But there's so many ways that you can utilize a blog. People a lot of times think a blog is either going to be a journal, a journal, or business informational, but you can also have a food blog, you can have a travel blog, you can have a lifestyle blog, a fashion blog, a vlog, which is a video blog. You can showcase your podcast, you can do music, you can do a DIY, a sports, a fitness. It's kind of endless. And so if you utilize your blog and you can create categories for it, then you can also find sometimes themes that will specially design elements that look different than just your journal blog. Okay, you're always going to have the default blog, which is always referred to as posts. Pages are pages on the website. Posts are going to be your blog. But you can also have some that customize portfolios or customize recipes if you do a food blog, or customize a podcast, which will also use other plugins that will allow you to connect to a podcasting where you record your podcasts and stream it. And so there's so many functionalities. So if you really know what you want to do with the blog, then that's where I would begin to think about what your goals are for your website and for your business, and then look for the theme that will fulfill that. Because I think that some themes out there are so creative, like the one I just showed you right here. Like this one is all food blogs. So this is a blog, but they're, well, actually, no, that's a page because it says about me, follow me. But if this were the blog itself, then the blog would be a recipe. Maybe one blog would be a story. So if you're a wellness coach, like a wellness coach could talk about multiple things. She could do recipes, but she can also journal. She could also offer a journal, and she can also have tips on mindsetting, or, on proper mindset. So there's 3 different elements that you can add content to, and give your clients, your visitors, your users who come to your website tons and tons of value. And so that's one of the reasons why blogs are actually so popular. And if you use another system, or have in the past, like Wix or Squarespace, they also offer a blog. I would always suggest utilizing it, but not quite as diverse as WordPress, because WordPress obviously can design all these cool different things specifically to what your needs are. So think about that when you're actually looking for a theme. So another thing that you can find, which is also really cool, like I use the portfolio on my website, which is brilliant, but I also use the blog itself. So I've created 2 different names for them. Like one is called, well, it's not called blog, it's called branding tips, is what it's called, branding tips. And then I have all my clients in my portfolio. Or in my the portfolio option, which is still a blog. I add my pictures to it, my client story, and a little gallery inside. So it really shows you it's more like a project. But if you have a different kind of business, let's say you're a home builder and you want to showcase a specific project, so you have details about the specific project, then you can also do that. Or if you have testimonials from clients, testimonials can also be utilized as a blog, as well as maybe employees or clients or affiliations or whatever. You can actually have other websites themes might design elements, but even if they don't, you can still build that element into it. It's a little tricky, but you can do that. And that's kind of cool, because then it will showcase all your posts, whatever, in a specific way, but you don't have to design anything, because it's already going to actually just display the most current posts that you've actually added. Okay. So with that, the reason why it's really also great to utilize a blog is because whenever you add content, you're adding amazing keywords to your website. Okay. So every post is going to have keyword rich content. And this is how people find you on the internet, right? It's called search engine optimization. So I know that you all know that now, but SEO is the acronym. And that's one way to really get your content and yourself as a business more visible, is by utilizing search engine optimization. Now, if you have just a simple brochure site right now with 5 or 6 pages, you can still add keywords to those pages. But there's always going to be more popular blogs or more popular websites And so you might not always come up on the home page. The more content you add and the more keywords you add, not only the more value you're giving to your visitors, but the more chances you have of being found, okay? So in this case, I'm showing you my blog on my Ginici Studio site, and it showcases it beautifully because I'm a photographer and I want it to look like a portfolio. So I have personal branding articles over here. And then when you click on one and it opens up into the blog story, for this particular story, I have target marketing strategy as my primary keyword. So I've used marketing strategy within the content. I also use top values and brand persona as sub keywords for that. Now, one thing you want to be sure to do, and here's best practices for your SEO. I just realized I'm not in full width, but that's okay. So best practices for your search engine optimization is make sure your website is registered with Google and Bing, and that is a whole nother story. I know you're probably thinking, what does that mean? Please make an appointment with me if you haven't already done it. Because, but if you want to do it today, all you have to do is just do a Google search, register my website with Google, and it'll take you to the proper place. It used to be called WordPress web developer or something like that. I think it's called console now or something like that. So I don't know, but so it changes all the time. And you can also do the same thing, register a site with Bing. If you use two of the most popular search engine optimization plugins, which is Yoast. In fact, I have that next, Yoast. And I'll say this again, Yoast and Rank Math, they will actually help you register. So once you register through Google and Bing, you can actually add the code into the plugin itself so that Google and Bing and all the other browsers that you might want to add to it will start scanning your website for those keywords, okay? And I'm going on because I know you guys have questions, but I'm going to do this first and then we'll ask some questions. I'll answer some. The next one would be to utilize Google My Business if you're not already doing so. It's a great source and Google likes you. You want to play with Google. It adds more keywords and it also ties it right back to your website. And so I also help people, if you set up an appointment with me, I can help you get set up on Google My Business. And you don't have to have a storefront, by the way. You can simply be a working business. You want to always put your keyword phrase in your title. So if the title, for example, is how to develop a brilliant brand, and or let's say how to develop a brilliant brand, and personal brand is my keyword, then that's perfect for the title. Now, the other thing you want to do is, though, you want to incorporate that keyword within the content at least 3 more times. The more, probably the better. When you add it, so if I'm using personal branding as my keyword and that's in my title, I'm going to also put it in my content into sentences several more times, okay? And then you also want to put your keyword phrases in subheader tags. I know you guys, your brains are exploding right now, but this is brilliant technology. So when Google and Bing or any kind of Bing bots or whatever scan your website, what they're looking for are header tags. Those are your keywords. So you want to leave your header tags as your keywords and keyword phrases. So typically the title is going to be an H1 tag. So don't put anything in H1. Okay, but you can also add one of your keyword phrases into a subheader category, such as an H2 or H3. Then you can add a paragraph underneath it. I know you guys are probably thinking, what is all of this about? But if you use H2, H3, H1 tags as a design element, don't do that. Don't use it as a design element. You want to actually use that for search engine optimization first, and then design your website according to the size of the tags and the content body, or the body content. You can change the size of the font within the theme default, the theme itself. There's going to be some control as to changing fonts, changing font sizes, and changing font colors, okay? So I'm going to come back to this in a little bit more because I just want to get through this because we're already running out of time. And then you can add an inbound link to your article, which is, let's say you have another article where you talk about, well, if you want to know more about how to set up an appointment, go to this site. And you're basically sending, a link to another page of your website. Okay, so it could be your contact page, it could be another blog on another topic. And then you want to add outbound links to your article. An outbound link is going to go to another source such as Wikipedia or another, maybe a partner, somebody that you partner with, and gets them off the site, because that's going to create more of a web. Like it is the World Wide Web. Okay, and then insert photographs or graphics with an alt tag as your keyword phrase. So if I have a photograph that I install in WordPress, when you go to your media file and you install it, it'll show you at the top alternate text, alt text, or alt tag. It might say it's several different ways. You can put your keyword phrase there. Now, if you buy stock photography, a lot of times it will already be filled out, so you want to change it. Okay. All right. And I see Barbara. So that means we're running out of time. And so okay. And so here are the two plugins that I highly recommend: Yoast SEO, Rank Math. They are both free. If you buy the license to use them, you can add multiple keywords. I love both of them. They're both very different, but they both work great. Yes, what was the question? So now let's go into questions. Uh-oh, I think you muted yourself.
Do you have a last slide for us?
Well, I was going to go into WooCommerce, but I just don't think we're going to have time today. So if you guys need help with WooCommerce, just let me know and I can help you. Obviously, the main thing is if you want to do WooCommerce, I would find a theme that has a storefront that you like. You can extend the functionality of it. And you always want to make sure that you're testing it and it works before you sell anything. So that's just very quickly in a nutshell. So how about that? So that's how can I help? Obviously, we have me again, sorry, as your MCSC consultant, and I can help you in multiple ways. So let me know, and there you go. So there, that was my last slide.
And it's free. So, that's the good part.
And it's free. Yes. Okay.
So, we have one
question.
Really excellent question that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about. And actually, all the questions have been great today. So thank you guys for your participation. How do you update your website without conflicting with your existing website?
How do you update your website without conflicting with your existing website?
So if you're
usually what usually happens is when you hit the update button, it kind of goes into maintenance mode. So if somebody were to happen to land on your website the moment you're doing the update, it's probably just going to show the old version. Until it updates, it will refresh. Or they might land on it and it might say maintenance mode, and it might just take a few minutes. But make sure that you have, if you have bad Wi-Fi, make sure you don't have as much, don't have a lot of stuff open in your browser, just WordPress, and it should take just a few seconds to update.
Okay, thank you so much. Such great information, and it's really tangible takeaways as well, which I really appreciate. So if you got enough to know that you want more, Gina can help you. Just let us know. We're happy to help you. I wanted to let you know about some of the upcoming events that we have. We have some really great ones coming up. So using video in social media marketing, it's a 3-part series. Part 1 just happened. If you go to our website, you'll see the link to that, or you can get it on our YouTube page. And I did put those links in the YouTube page link in the chat box. So the part 2 is on the 28th and part 3 is on the 12th of October. And then Excel with Excel. Like this one, it is made for beginners. So there are some words in the description that may seem foreign, and yet the person who's teaching it is very good at teaching people who don't understand the beginning parts. And so if you're a beginner, this class is for you. Rookie to rockstar is what you will be. And then we have some classes in Spanish, Google My Business and Google Drive in Spanish. And then our entrepreneurial training class in English just started last night, but you can still get in if you want. And the first class was recorded. That's on Tuesday nights. And then we have that in Spanish starting on the 27th. That's Empezando. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you again, Gina. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.